Alice, a childhood story take, and with a gentle hand laid where childhood's dreams are twined in memory's mystic band, like pilgrims' withered wreath of flowers plucked in a far-off Videoland. And that is where our story begins.
My enlightenment came with the first Wellington Film Festival and realising that this is quite awesome. I'd read about these legendary films that we could never see any other way. And so I thought, well, you know, maybe one day. And so happened I got involved in a construction company, or basically founded a construction company, and it did do exceptionally well. And I thought with the proceeds of that, maybe art house cinemas, that would be the way to do this. Then sort of the advent of video came along. And after hiring a couple of these videos and just having a look at the potential that this really had, is sort of we invested into probably the first video store in Christchurch. It was based on a very, very commercial model, insofar as the early adapters to video were generally people who didn't have very high expectation of film, and so it was just slush for the masses, basically, that was feeding that industry. The odd good film was trickling in amongst this avalanche of mediocrity, and we thought, well, why not start isolating these gems and put them in a different place? So I had a little shelf in the first Video Shack and National Mutual Arcade, and it was such well supported, and people thought, oh, it's not all about this, it can be about that. And so we thought, well, look, why don't I just pull out of this, because you can't work one model within another model. It has to be one or the other. So Alice was born that way.
Alice's adventures began in a magical land hidden in the hollows of Hereford Street.
It was quite a special little store insofar as we had lost Hayes Roof, and we'd lost the big kiwi down Colombo Street, and we'd lost a few of the other little things that I'd grown up with that were quite special to us. So we thought, well, look, why don't we create an environment that you know you're not in the real world any longer. So we set up this little store, and it was basically had the look about it of a pop-up book. And so you'd walk in there, you'd go over a rainbow, which, you know, a lift in your day, when your day is basically linear, was quite exceptional. Then you're onto the AstroTurf, and then you sort of look around, and, you know, straight away it was a horse of a different colour. So that was a lot of fun at its day, just to even put it together.
Thus grew the tale of Wonderland.
Oh, well, Alice just, like in the story, she just grew, her arms were coming out the windows, the doors, and she just couldn't operate in there any longer. You know, a box of film would arrive and we'd sort of scratch our heads where we're going to put it. And because we've never retired film, ever. Once it makes the grade to be into Alice's, it never retires itself. It's always there. If it falls over, we replace it. And I was just driving around for a long time, maybe 6 months to 9 months, and then I saw a lease sign on this building. And I thought, right, that's it, say no more. And so we signed a lease as quick as we could, with a contingency that if it was to come for sale, which most post offices were being put on the block in those days, that we had first option, and they agreed to that. And the rest is history. Here we are, and we now have the building to ourselves. So.
And what challenges were met before you found the limelight?
So initially, really, it was a small membership, small club. Word of mouth is what we've pretty much always relied on, and that was kind of in the early days. You know, we did a very brief bit of advertising, but really word of mouth got around. You know, one of the hurdles in the early days is like when companies would issue tapes, they would only rent them to the library, so you pay a rental fee. So whereas nowadays you can buy the film and have it permanently, but back then, if a film you'd rent it for 6 months, and if it wasn't earning its keep, you know, if people weren't renting it, then you'd have to send it back. So, you know, so you'd have all these great films in the library, but then they disappear after 6 months. So you had to sort of get in, and if you didn't get to see it then you dipped out again until maybe it got reshoot again later down the track. So that was, you know, one of the annoying things in the early days, yeah. In the early days, films used to be a lot more expensive before they became a retail sort of commodity. So you'd be paying upwards of $150 for one title sort of thing for the library, you know. So if you're buying, you know, 50, 60, 100 titles a month, you can see how that soon adds up. But nowadays, you know, the costs have come down because retail has become a big part of the film, you know, marketing strategy.
Alice is home to one of Canterbury's most respected film reviewers, Nick Paris, that likens Alice to an invaluable tool.
Viewers can recall sort of these 0800 ads in print media and TV media of the Swiss Army knife. It's your basic survival knife. It'll do anything. It'll make a starving man eat in the desert or whatever, as long as you've got this knife. Well, that's it for Alice's. It's the moniker of, it's a survival kit, because let's face it, we're faced with a lot of bad cinema all around us, and so you're armed with a survival knife, and that's us. We're here to archive past history and to preserve the intellectual property of all those directors, from silent right through to contemporary. So we're an archivist, and that's why I like living here, because living here, I'm working here, I'm breathing everything, I'm mostly here all the time, but we're just preserving the past for the future generations. There is nothing else like it anywhere in the world. Sydney, Melbourne, London, New York, Chicago, Ekirahuna, there's nothing like it. Okay, and it shouldn't be rocket science either. I think because we've got an assemblage of people who cares about cinema is why the foundations of this is spewed forth. So I'm very surprised that there's no Alice's anywhere else. But one of the Christchurch can lay claim to fame that this is the best video like that.
From thousands of titles that have passed through the rabbit hole to the shelves of Alice, what do these three passionate men rate as their favourite film of all time?
I'd have to go back to Harold and Maude, quite simply because it was a philosophical watershed for me when I saw it, because I'd had an upbringing on the West Coast, and I say not so much relatively sheltered, but I'd never been exposed to other ways and forms of philosophical thought. And then I saw this, and I thought, well, there's a whole new way here. Let's have some more of this. And so I've got such fond memories of that film. Still have.
Oh, Harold, I am happy. I couldn't imagine a lovelier farewell.
Farewell?
Yes, it's my 80th birthday.
Well, you're not going anywhere, are you?
Yes, dear. I took the tablets an hour ago. I'll be gone by midnight.
My favourite movie, without question, is called Seven Samurai. It's a Japanese film from the 1950s. It was remade in Hollywood as The Magnificent Seven in the 60s. Basically, it's about a troop of samurai who are hired by this village. This village is being invaded by sort of bandits every year, and the village hires, and they're a very poor village, so they can only afford to hire 7 samurais to protect them, basically. But what's great about it is not only the spectacle, it's a big action sort of epic, but it's the humanity that comes through in the characters as well. All the characters get their own sort of moment in the spotlight, and they're just very well drawn out, and it's a brilliantly crafted film. It's recognised as a masterpiece of world cinema.
Breaking the Waves is my favourite film. Young, naive woman growing up on a Calvinist island off the north coast of Scotland is hated by the local Christian community because she's looking after a crippled oil rigger. She's fancy, and she decides to continue her lovemaking while he's crippled, and so the church folk says, no, you can't do that, and she's basically banished as a harlot, and is sent to an asylum to mend her ways. It ends in sort of, it's part of a Golden Heart trilogy by La Von Trier about saintly heroines, and it's got the most beautiful ending one can imagine. But Emily Watson's in it, and it was her debut performance, and it's just one that resonates with me from day one to now.
We're going to die.
You're not going to die. I know you're not. I promise you.
I sincerely hope Alice holds its course. It's an amazing collection. It's taken really 25 years to actually get the maturity that it's got now, where I can categorically say that we have got every great film ever made in one collection. Well, you know, if anyone's ever collected anything, to be able to stand back and say that, it's quite a statement. It's quite a statement.